Welcome to ASCRIPT Basics. In this video, we will cover the initial configuration of the ASCRIPT software, as well as opening and running scripts and building basic scripts. The first time you open ASCRIPT, you may receive a warning notifying you that no auto-sampler hardware has been defined. You can click OK to clear this message, and we can then define the auto-sampler hardware. To do this, open the Tools menu and select Hardware Setup. Then, click on the Model drop-down box and select your auto-sampler from the list. In this case, we've selected an ASX 560. There are also fields where you can enter your serial number. The serial number for your auto-sampler can be located on the label on the back of the auto-sampler. Next, you would need to configure your COM port, and the COM port is what your computer is using to communicate with the auto-sampler. COMs 1 through 3 are for serial cable connections, and COMs 4 and higher are for USB connections. Once you've selected your COM port, you can click OK. You'll receive a notification that the settings will take place once the software is restarted. Click OK, but do not close the software yet. Before we restart ASCRIPT, we will want to define our racks. To do this, go back to the Tools menu and select Define Racks. This will open a file selection window for a folder called Rack Defin Files, which is short for Rack Definition Files. If you ever navigate away from this folder and need to go find your way back, it can be found in C, Users, Public Documents, Teledyne CTAC, ASCRIPT, Rack Defin Files. Inside this folder are several pre-made rack files for different auto-sampler and rack configurations. The file names tell you what auto-sampler and rack configuration they are for. Here, we have a file for an ASX 560 using 60 position racks. Also in this folder is a subfolder labeled ACTA Specific. Inside this folder are rack configurations which use some of the specialty racks commonly used with ACTA. Here is a file for an ASX 560 with a dual rinse station and our universal bottle rack set up for 18 square bottle positions. When you locate the file that matches your configuration, click on it and then click Open. With the hardware and racks defined, we can close the ASCRIPT software and then restart it to make the changes take effect. Now that ASCRIPT is configured, we will cover scripts. ASCRIPT is a tool which allows you to use a script of commands to control the actions of an auto-sampler. ASCRIPT allows you to create your own script or to use an existing script. Here we're going to cover how to open an existing script. With ASCRIPT open, select the File menu and click Open Script. A file selection window will open and should display the contents of Users, Public Documents, Teledyne CTAC, ASCRIPT. There are a few basic scripts in this folder, but there is also a subfolder called ACTA Specific Scripts. This folder contains 2 scripts which were created for use with the Cytiva ACTA system. Double-click this folder to open it. The 2 scripts are for standard configuration and flush-out configuration. Which script you should use will be dependent on your ACTA hardware configuration. You can consult the Cytiva Auto Sampler Setup and Programming cue card for assistance in choosing the best script. For this example, we will be using the standard configuration script. Click on that script and then click Open. When you are ready to run the script, click the large Start button in the lower right. A pop-up will enter asking you to enter the number of samples included in your Unicorn Method Scouting Scheme. Enter your number of samples and click OK. Now that we know how to open and run a script, let's talk about how a script works. So we have the standard configuration script open, and the contents of that script are displayed in the center section of the window. The script is displayed as a series of commands, and it will run through them in order from top to bottom. So the first command in this script is set next to. When you click on a command in the center column, the right panel will display an explanation of the command's function. It will also show any definable parameters here if there are any for that particular command. The set next to command does not have any immediate action associated with it. It is simply used to define a parameter which the program will refer to later. Set next to tells the program what tube number will be the next tube to visit. Since this is the very first command in our script, this is effectively telling the program what our very first tube will be. Here we can see the next tube parameter has been set to 1. The next command in our script, define label, also has no physical action linked to it. Here we are creating a label called start. This label will function as a reference point we can return to using a goto command if we need to run through the same script multiple times. We'll cover goto commands a little later, but the next command in our script is output on port. This command is used to enable or disable a specified output port on the autosampler. If we look at the parameters, we can see here we are setting output port 1 to disabled with a duration of 0 milliseconds. However, if we read the description below, we see that a setting of 0 has special meaning. When the duration is set to 0, it means the port will remain in its new state until we change it. So here, output port 1 will be set to disabled until we command it to enable. The Unicorn software running the ACTA detects this change in port state and interprets it as meaning the autosampler is ready for the next sample. The next command is wait for port input, with the parameters specifying port 1 and open. Here, the script will have the autosampler wait until it sees port 1 has a state of open. In the last command, we set a signal to Unicorn. Now we are waiting for a signal back from Unicorn. When Unicorn is ready to proceed, it will send a digital pulse signal to open port 1. When the autosampler sees this, it will move to the next step. In this case, the next step is move to next tube. And if you recall, our first command set the next tube to 1. So the autosampler will move the probe tube number 1 and then move on to the next command, which is lower sample probe. Now it will lower the sample probe to a depth of 140 millimeters. Once lowered, it will wait for 5 seconds, then it will perform another output on port command. This time, it sets the output port 1 to enabled. Like before, Unicorn detects this change in state. Unicorn sees this state change as notification the sample probe is now in the sample tube and can begin processing any tasks it needs to perform with that sample tube. After setting the output port, the script executes another wait for port input command. Here, it is waiting until port 2 shows a state of open. When Unicorn has finished its tasks, it will send a signal to port 2 and the script will continue. Once it receives a signal, it will wait 5 more seconds. Then it will raise the probe, wait 5 more seconds, and then move to the rinse station and lower the probe into the rinse station. So if you look at the remaining script, you can see there's a bit of a signal and response pattern forming in the script. The autosampler performs a task or tasks, then it sends a signal to Unicorn with the output on port command. Then it uses the wait for port input command, and it waits for Unicorn to signal back, telling it to proceed with the next actions. When the ACTA system is ready, Unicorn will send that appropriate signal and the script continues. This signal and response communication is what allows the autosampler and the ACTA system to keep in sync with each other. For the sake of brevity, we're going to jump to the last command on our script. The if position go to label command allows the script to perform different actions depending on what tube we are at. If you look at the parameters, it shows if the last sample position was less than the last tube, it will go back to the label we created back near the beginning of the script. it essentially loops the program until we process the final two. So how does it know what the last two is? That's the job of this checkbox here. When this box is checked, it causes the input box to open when you start the script. That box has you enter the number of samples before it continues. So if we enter 20, it will repeat the script over and over until we complete the 20th sample. Once we complete the 20th sample, instead of going back to the start label all the way up here, it will move down to the next command in the script. However, since there are no more commands in the script, it ends. While we recommend using one of the two pre-written scripts with your ACTA system, it is possible to modify an existing script or create an entirely new script. This section will give you a brief introduction to that process. To start from a clean slate, open the File menu and select New Script. Your available commands will be displayed on the left, and you can click and drag the commands to drop them into the center column where your script will reside. If the commands have any user-definable parameters, you can set them on the right side pane. Remember that the script runs from top to bottom, so the order you place the commands is important. If you find you need to change the order, you can click on a command and then use the blue arrows to move it up or down the list. If you find you added a command that you don't need, you can click on it to select it and then use your delete key to remove it. Be careful with the clear button. Clicking it will erase your entire script and there is no way to undo it. When you have the script the way you want it, you should save it. To save your script, open the File menu, then select either Save Script or Save Script As. If you are modifying an existing script, it is good practice to use Save Script As so you can retain an original copy of the script in case you need to return to it. When you choose Save or Save Script As, the file window will open. If you're happy with the folder it's in, you can leave it as is, and then just name your script. This concludes the training for using ASCRIPT with ACTA. If you need additional information, we recommend reviewing the document titled Using ASCRIPT with ACTA. This is a PDF file which was placed on your desktop during the installation of ASCRIPT. It is an in-depth cue card put together by Cytiva and provides an excellent and detailed explanation of using the auto sampler with your ACTA system. Thank you.